Okay, good afternoon to everyone. My name is Giovanni Fiori. Some of you just know me because you were my student during the undergraduate time, and I am the co-professor of corporate governance together with a colleague of mine. Her name is Barbara Magnanelli. So. Just few words about the course, about the rules, and how everything is going to happen during your experience here with us during these 2 months that we 2-3 months that we spent together. As you know, because you have been advised by the university. Attendance at the lessons is mandatory. You will be, I know, this is new of this year because it's totally unknown. Despite I'm teaching this university for approximately 35 years, this time there is a new app to, to check your attendance. I think so, is right? Mm-hmm. Anyway, as far as my personal, opinion is concerned, I don't care too much if you're here or not, because what's important for me is that at the end of the course, you've been, able to understand the main issues and the main topics that we have been discussing during the lessons. So, the attendance is a matter of the university, it's not a matter of mine. If you are here, this is very important, that you can choose between being an attendance student or being a non-attending student. That's a choice that you have to make immediately. Of course, to be not attending, you need to have a sort of reason to do that. A reason that could be a job, and this is a very good reason. Or, I know that some of the foreign students, they have visa issues. This is, of course, important. But this is something that you have to manage with the university, with the administration of the university. If you decide to be an attendance student, the rules are that the final grade will be divided into 2 parts. 2/3 of the final grades will depend on the result of the final exam. 1/3 of the final grade will depend on the continuous assessment that we will make during the lessons, and I will explain you how it's going to work, this kind of part of the final grade. If you decide to be not to attend the lessons because you have to work, you have different reasons that the university will evaluate for us, then 100% of the final grade will be depending on the final exam. I think it's clear. It's okay for you? Okay. Because you are here, I suppose that you will attend. And so if you want to attend the lessons, the first thing to do is to divide yourself into different groups of people, because we will be asked for discussions of business cases, of papers, and so first of all you have to decide to form these groups. You have 2 choices. If you want, we can decide to form the group randomly, or you can decide to form your groups by yourself. Which option do you prefer? One, the first, the second? You want to decide? Huh? I do. You prefer that? Let's make a sort of, yes, let's make a poll. Who is for the first option? The first option is that I'm going to decide randomly. So you can be with the enemies, with the friends, with the... You are for this option. Not so popular, as far as I understand. Who is for the second option?
Second option was to choose, right? Like,
and who is not raising the hand? What is the... No decision, no opinion? You know, when you are going to search for a job, one of the first things that they asking for you is to have an opinion. If you have no opinion, it's not a good sign. I mean, my interpretation could be that if no one, I mean, if somebody has not raised the hand, this is something which is, I mean, first or second is the same. This is my interpretation. But because most people were claiming for the second option, so you are invited to form the group by yourself. With one advice that this group should be formed before next Monday. The reason is that on next Wednesday you will have the first presentation and the first session of common work. Okay. Now I will tell you what is the kind of job that you will do next Wednesday, but one of the requirements is that you have to form the group before next Monday. It's okay? Good.
How many people per group?
No more than 10 people.
What's the minimum?
The minimum is the best thing is that you form groups with 8-10 people. That's the best solution. Not more than 10 because, I have some, I'm a very, very old professor. So it's a long time that I teach. Long experience. So if you form a group with 10 people, with 2 best in class and 8 sleeping guys, I am able to wake up the sleeping guys.
Okay, so 8 is the minimum?
8 is approximately the minimum.
Okay, thanks.
One important requirement for me, if you want to attend the lessons, one extremely important for me, but not only for me, for everyone in your future. If the lesson is 2 p.m., you should be here at 2 p.m. That's for someone of you is obvious, but for someone is less obvious. So this is the first lesson. I can tolerate that someone has been late, but I really, really tell you that next times you should be on time. Because, but it is for you. Because if you have to take a train, are you on time to take the train? You are on time, I think so. So, if you are able to organize yourself for being on time to take a train, so I suppose that you can be able to organize yourself to be on time for attending a lesson. And that's one of the first rules that you will be required to follow when you have a job. Believe me. Second requirement, if you stay here, you have to behave properly, so not speaking to each other, especially when your colleagues are presenting their works. because this is a form of respect of your colleagues that are making a job and they are presenting the results of their workers. So this is very important. These two requirements for me are absolutely extremely important. Okay? As you know, no, maybe you'll know, but I will tell you, the final exam will be a written one, a written exam. The final grade, you must accept it. You have only one possibility. If you think that your, exam is not going properly, you can have a sort of retake. But I will explain you. Did you have the rule about that? Okay. So there's no need for me to. Okay. Any other questions about the?
Does it matter if you from group 1 or 2?
Yeah.
For the group, like, it's only possible to form a group if all are in group 1 or all in group 2, or is there no difference?
What do you mean by that? I don't understand you.
All the students are divided into group 1 and group 2.
You are divided in group 1,
system.
yes.
Yeah.
In this class?
Every
This class, no.
No, not anymore, I think.
No, we are divided in the other class, but the one has no changes from the technical, so I think it's not.
This is something that I really don't know. Let me understand a little bit better, because I really, frankly speaking, I really don't know about this kind of problem.
We on Tuesday are divided 1 week no and the other yes in two different classes for project work, I think, or something that is more technical. But this class is not including that. So
No, this my course, because this was something happening in the last 3-4 years. But I strongly, complain against this kind of.
no, the timetable is clean. We just have the division in the.
You have an overlap. It's sort of overlap. What is that?
No. It's not the problem of this class.
Ah, okay. So it's not a problem. We
Yeah,
cannot discuss that.
okay.
Okay. No. You don't have to be sorry, because any question is important. You are here. You pay. You spend a lot of time here. Instead, then today is not the best example to have different occasion for spending your time, but it is clever to make any kind of question. So don't have to be sorry about that. Okay. Let's start to discuss about the topic of our course. I teach corporate governance since a lot of years, and I had to deal with corporate governance not only as a professor, but I would say 80% of the reason of my knowledge of corporate governance comes from my experience as a member of boards, as a CEO of some firms, because I'm a part-time professor, so I spend part of my time in having lessons, but a large part of my time in the real business. So corporate governance is a topic which was, practically unknown 40 years ago. But it has become really, really common, really, really sensitive after, I would say, 2001, 2002. You know why? Do you know why? One more thing, yes. If you make interventions during the class, and this kind of intervention are very good, if you collect 3 good interventions, let's say you have 1 bonus point and final exam. Of course, I am in charge to judge if this intervention is clever or not. I don't want to say that if you don't get the bonus, it is a stupid one, but it must be, very good intervention. It's clear? So, let's let's start from the beginning. So we have to deal with this topic, corporate governance. Do you know the meaning of this word? What is the meaning of this word? Corporate, you know what is the corporate?
It's like a set of systems, practices, and rules to govern organizations to align interests of different parties that
You are going a little bit further because this is something that we have to discuss. But the first part of your intervention is, I would say, clear. Governance is, what does it mean, governance? You have to govern something, and govern, it has a meaning which has a lot of implications. Corporate is a big firm. Big firm. Corporate is a firm. Of course, corporate governance is something which it is a problem not of the small firms, for reasons that we can discuss, but it is a problem especially for the biggest firms. What does it mean, governance? I am governing an institution. You think about the government of a country. What is the government of a country? Government of France, of Italy, of China, United States. What is a government? I mean, all of these countries, we call them democracy. But what is a democracy? It comes from the Greek language, you know? Democracy is the power in the hands of the people. But of course, we are a lot of people, and so to govern a country, we cannot ask, let's take Italy. We are a small country, there are 60 million people. If you want to take a decision, you cannot ask 60 million people, what do you think? Think about China, they are much more, many more people, so it's much more difficult. And so the government of a country is organized with a form of delegation. So the people is delegating someone to govern, and so we make elections, we make, there are different kind of delegation. Every country has its own. But the problem is that the power stays, in theory, in the hands of some people, but the real action of government is in the hands of other people. So one of the problems of corporate governance is who has the power? And who is going to manage? Let's start with, very small examples. You take, there are a lot of, restaurants nearby here in Lewis. Let's take one of these restaurants. Some of these restaurants are corporates, very small corporates. So, who has the power? Probably the owner of the shares of this small corporate. And who is going to manage the firm normally? You know what?
Manager.
Yeah, but who is the manager in the small restaurant? Normally? The owner. Normally it's the owner, The owner is the founder of the restaurant. He is owning the share, so he has the property, of the restaurant. And it's the same person who is going to manage the firm. Let's take a big firm, like let's talk about Apple, because yesterday they announced the new iPhone 17. Are you going to buy that? Don't know. Apple, who is the owner of Apple? You know that? Who is the owner? I mean, the owner, when I'm talking about the owner, I'm talking about the people who own the shares. Because owning the shares, it means to have the rights to govern, you have the power to decide what to do. Who is the owner of Apple? Do you know that? Huh? Huh? Sting.
Not a single owner.
Not single. Not many people, I would say. A different, I would use a different word, not people.
Holders?
Huh?
Holders.
Huh?
Shareholders.
Yeah, but who are the shareholders? Because, of course, the shareholders are always the owner of the firm, but who are the shareholders in Apple?
Input.
Huh?
Input.
Very small size. Very, very small.
Families.
Very, very small.
Maybe some financial institution.
He has a lot of shares, you know.
That is not the point.
No, it's very, I mean, he's a rich guy, because he has a lot of shares, big, salary. You know that the CFO of Apple, he's, I mean, until 6 months ago, he was an Italian, coming from this university. He was graduating the same year that I graduated in this university. He also is a shareholder of Apple, but very small. Who are the major? Warren Buffett has some quotes, yes, some shares.
Maybe some institutional investors.
Like?
I don't know, maybe BlackRock.
BlackRock is the major shareholders of Apple, with an amount of shares which I think, I mean, it's difficult to say one figure, because that's something which is changing day by day. But it is something about the 2-3%. Some other shares are owned by Warren Buffett, some other by Vanguard, which is another big investment fund. And so Apple is a sort of dispersed ownership company.
Sorry.
What is that?
It's raining.
Eh?
It's raining.
For everyone.
Yeah, I know, sorry.
It's raining for everyone. It's not like Fantozzi with your own cloud with the rain only for you. No? That's rain for everyone. That's very democratic. Okay? Really, really fair. It's raining for everyone. So please, don't tell bullshits when you're coming in. It's raining. It's difficult to tolerate that you are late 25 minutes. It's impossible to tolerate that you are telling us this bullshit that you are late because it's raining. This is an offense to every one of us. You understand me?
Yeah, I understood.
Eh?
I understood.
Yeah. Good. Okay, so we're talking about Apple. Apple is a case of dispersed ownership. What does this mean? It means that basically no one really controls this company. Because what is BlackRock? You know what is BlackRock? It's an investment fund. They are basically the major shareholders, not only of Apple, but of a lot of companies, a lot of corporates. But they are not the kind of shareholders who buy the shares and then decide, I want to be, the big superpower. They buy the shares for one reason. Why do they buy the shares? To make money, yes. So they don't care about, I want my guys to be the CEO, I want to be part of the strategy, I want to decide if investing the iPad instead of the iPhone. They don't care about that. They care only about one thing. They trust the people who are managing the Apple. So they say, I buy shares of Apple because I trust the company and I trust the guy who is managing the firm. And I want to buy the shares. And I continue to buy the shares if I continue to trust the company. If I distrust the company, I do only one thing. I sell the shares. And so you understand that if you take the small restaurant close to Luis University, there is no difference between the guy who has the power and the guy who is managing the company, because they are more or less the same guys. But if you take big companies, you have a total difference between the people who have the power and the people who have the management power, which is something totally different. So the issue of corporate governance has come out during the time because everyone was more and more aware that there was a problem, a distance between someone who has the right, the shareholders, and so someone who is the manager. So this kind of issue, as you know, has created another kind of related problem. And so we have to create some systems of control. Because if I'm not the main shareholder, if there is no clear shareholder, if the people who is going to manage the firm is totally different from the people who are shareholders, we have to create some systems of controlling the two things. Okay. Basically, the main problems which are object of the study of corporate governance are this one: the relation between shareholders and management, and the systems of control. Of course, there is an overriding problem, which probably comes before this one. And so a basic question, which is, what is the purpose of the firm? Because this is really important. What is the real purpose of a corporate? Because depending on the different purpose of the corporate, we can have different solutions to the other two big issues. Okay? So basically this is the course. So we can finish now? No. So let's start from the first point. What is the purpose of the firm? Is it clear, this one? So what is the purpose of a corporate? This is a very big question. And it's not as simple as you can understand, because just to make you some examples, in the last 5-6 years, this is one of the topic most discussed and more discussed not only in corporate governance, but in management, in the overall management science. So what is the real purpose of the corporate? So let's start a little bit of discussion about this kind of big question. So what is the purpose of a corporate? That's not easy. I can help you in giving the answer. Do you think that the purpose of the corporate is the same in every country of the world? There are some differences, some different culture, some different histories. What do you think about that? Okay.
Also, it's not the same because different countries are focused on different problems. I don't know, let's say in Europe, now there is a more predominant ESG practices. So firms are maybe more centered in offering like sustainable solutions rather than just maximizing shareholder value, which is like the usual, like that.
Okay, maybe they have not heard you at all because, but I can summarize what you were saying. Your colleague was saying, what's your name?
Alexander.
Okay, Alexander said that, in Europe, maybe they pay more attention to ESG problems and to sustainability, maybe compared to other part of the world. But this is not the definition of the purpose, because you say, you're not telling about the purpose. You're telling, okay, I have a purpose, but I have to take care about ESG and stuff like that. So let's just add someone else. A girl, please, before. Decide you can.
Okay, concerned. I think like profit maximization is a bit obvious, but like in recent time, the stakeholderism approach is raising popularity because we need to account for different stakeholders. For example, not only the shareholders, but again, like the ESG was mentioned. So there were the sustainability issues concerned. And
So you're talking about different kind of purposes.
Yeah, because
The first one is profit.
maximization.
Okay. What's your name?
Ola.
Ola? Can you please, let's make a rule, because if you can send me your name by email. You have my email, gfiori@luis.it. That's very easy.
No,
Take note. Everyone, if I tell you send me an email, this means that the intervention can be considered. But I don't want to make mistakes in taking notes of your names. So please send me an email and tell me about the intervention that you made. Okay? So, of course, profit is one of the main purpose of a corporate. That's obvious, because this is a sort of, one of the first rules of capitalism. The idea is that the real question is, it is only profit, it is something else, it is something that profit could be also defined in very different ways, because in the last 30 years no one was talking about profit. Profit is something which is coming from the classical economists, but now everyone was talking about something called shareholders' value creation. So, it is not a slight difference, it could be a very big difference. Profit, you know what is profit? What is the most common measure of profit in the financial statement of a company?
Income minus cost.
Yeah, so what is the name of this kind of result?
Net income.
net income, but the most common metric is another one. Because net income is important, because net income is the, final return for the shareholders. Net income, the final, the bottom line of the profit and loss account. But the most important figure is a different one,
Revenue?
Revenue is not a profit. It's not profit. Revenue is revenue. You can have revenue of 100. If you have a cost of 200, you have a very big loss.
And it's before interest and taxes.
So this EBITDA, we can say EBITDA. This is the most important figure of profit. Remember that. When you have a job, nobody's going to tell you about the net income. Everyone is going to tell you about this EBITDA. But we will have a lesson to, go more in depth with a different, methodology for measuring the shareholder value creation. So profit, but the main question is only profit or also something else? No.
I was thinking about creating and delivering value, not only for shareholders, but also for clients and whoever is somehow related to the corporate.
Value for clients. What do you mean by that?
Not only for them, also is somehow related to the corporate.
So, examples?
Shareholder, government, society.
Value for society. I'm going to write this, but we have to be a little bit clearer to define a little bit better.
Stakeholder.
One?
Maybe I was thinking about the development of the firm itself and also about keeping in touch and reply to the wants and needs of the customers.
Yeah, this is something really,
Vague.
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit, I'm a little more I'm
Practical.
yeah. My aim and my soul is really pragmatic. So
Maybe also creating a vision for the future, not only the value for the society now.
this is really idealistic. And it's a very good thing. It's really appreciated, but these guys are more pragmatic than me, so it's difficult to say that.
Maybe increasing the value of the shares.
This is exactly what we wrote down here.
But also if you are not having profit, but you are
No, but I was specifying, let's not talk about profit. Let's talk about shareholder value creation. That's a different thing. But we already talked about that.
To provide goods and services the corporate is created for.
Supervising the company?
To provide goods and services.
Yeah, but this is...
The corporate is created for.
Yes, but this is something that is a tool to achieve the purposes. Okay? So, just to make you understand, the restaurant is providing a lot of lunches and dinners for people because they have a purpose. In the case of a restaurant, the purpose is, what could be the purpose of the restaurant?
Good food and
Good food, good food is a tool. You have to think not about the tool, but at the final end. I have to do good food. Why? Because I want to satisfaction for myself. A little bit, yes. If you are a good restaurant, a 3 stars Michelin restaurant, the purpose is not only profit. It's also to have good reputation, to be famous, to be invited everywhere in the TV. But for a small restaurant like that, the main purpose is profit, because I don't think that Rossini they have the expectation to be awarded with a 3-star Michelin.
which one of us?
You can choose because you were
Innovation.
innovation. This is the purpose of the firm.
Yeah, like to reduce costs or solve more problems for customers.
No, this is a tool. If you don't, you know why? In some sectors, in some industries, if you are not innovating, you die. You know that? You die. That's the end. You take this one. You know, this is an Apple iPhone. You are two young guys, so you cannot remember what the story that I'm going to tell you. But in the 2004, 2005, everyone like me and like everyone, we owned a different phone. Very different from this one. You know what was the brand of the 90% of the phones circulating in 2004, 2005, 2006? Nokia. I mean, they had 80% of the market share in some part of the world. 80%, you know that? I had only Nokia phones. Steve Jobs came out with the iPhone, then came the BlackBerry as well, Nokia. Have you ever seen a cellular phone, a Nokia cellular phone? No, this is because this is industrial, you know, this is industrial history. It's like if you have a Ferrari of the 50s or the 60s. This is something which is, for the museum, is okay? So innovation is crucial.
I think a distinction is often made between Anglo-Saxon countries and continental European countries, whereby Anglo-Saxon countries are almost exclusively focused on profit and shareholder value creation. And then I think in continental countries, you have what's called, I think, the Rhine model, whereby it's not only shareholder value creation, but also stakeholder satisfaction that they hold into account. So not only the shareholders getting their value for money, but also the corporation ensuring employment for their employees and also sort of regional development.
Okay, that's a very good point. What's your name?
Sebastian.
Where do you come from?
Belgium.
Yeah, I heard from your accent. You're Dutch.
Flemish, yeah.
You're not Français.
No.
Okay, that's a very good point. Send me an email. He was saying a very good thing, because actually we have a very different culture. Because in the Anglo-Saxon world, which means basically UK, United States, Netherlands is in the border because it has parts of the two systems. In the Anglo-Saxon countries, and Anglo-Saxon, remember, it's UK and US basically. There was, until, I mean, just before COVID, 2019, there was a strong orientation towards shareholder value creation as the only purpose of the firm. Only one. And by chance and by luck, you have studied in recent years, but if you were a student in 10 years ago, all the studies that you could make were oriented to the one purpose of the firm, shareholder value creation. And this was not only for the UK and US, but it was slowly conquering other parts of the world. Then everything was changed. Now there is a more balanced view of what is the purpose of the firm. But as your colleague was saying, in the European countries like Germany, especially Germany, but also France, also Italy, the view was different. The view was that the purpose of the corporate is to, of course, provide value creation for shareholders, but also to serve a broader part of the community, like the employees. Consider that in Germany, the employees, they have representatives in the governance structure. In France, traditionally, there was a big role of the state. In Italy, the tradition of the corporate is really with a strong link with the local communities. But if you go outside Europe, you find something really similar, not to the Anglo-Saxon world, but to the European continental tradition. China, for example, there is a strong role of the state. This comes from a long history of China. In Japan, you find a tradition of governance which is similar to the German one. In India, in Brazil, in Russia, you find a big role of the state because this is the tradition of the country. So, to make a long story short, we have basically two different views. The first view is a view in which the shareholders' value creation is the only real purpose of the firm. I mean, the motivation of this choice is basically that the idea is that if you create value for shareholders, then everyone else is happy. The employees are happy because giving value to the shareholders, this means that there is a perspective, a long perspective for the firm. So the employees could benefit from this. It is good for the banks, it is good for the customers, it is good for everyone. And this is the idea that led this, view to be dominant for many, many years. Were they right? Were they wrong? In my opinion, they were wrong. Because what happened is that, maximizing value creation for shareholders, this could mean that, for example, if you are managing a corporate with an ROE, you know what is ROE, return on equity, equal to 25%, which is a very good return on equity. But your goal is to increase it more and more, to go from 25 to 30%. To do that, you don't have any other choices than squeezing the salaries. So that's what happened in Walmart in the United States. To increase the ROE, they squeeze the salary of the employees. So not everyone was, satisfied about that. You can take more risks, and so good profits in the short term, but a very high risk in the medium long term. And that was, really, really widespread problem. Also because, and we will have a lesson about that, one of the biggest problems is how to measure this value creation for shareholders. Because all the metrics were wrong, because the measurement were driven by short-term results and not by long-term results. And that was an enormous mistake. Now, even the Anglo-Saxon countries, they moved towards a more, stakeholders view. What is stakeholders? You know that stakeholders are basically all the people or the group of people involved in the firms. So not only shareholders, they are one group of stakeholders, but you have the banks, you have the suppliers, you have the customers, the employees, and the communities. So everyone now is agreeing that a good corporate should not only pursue a value creation for shareholders, but should, take into account all the interests of the stakeholders here. Now this is deeply embedded in the policy of the companies that, in my opinion, we have gone a little bit too far. Because you were talking about ESG. This is something really important. But a lot of firms, they spend a lot of time, a lot of compliance in ESG issues, but if you look at the concrete results, there is a lot of greenwashing. You know what is greenwashing? Is a word to say, I make a lot of blah, blah, blah about how much am I green, etc., but I'm not doing anything really valuable. So a lot of disclosures, a lot of sustainability reports, a lot of committees, a lot of words. This is, something which is really costly, but with really few results. Next Wednesday, if you will form the different groups, I will ask you and every group to give me the pros and cons of the two views. Searching the literature, searching some evidences. And so, tell me, what are the pros of shareholders' view? What are the cons of shareholders' view? And what are the pros of the stakeholders' view and the cons of the stakeholders' view? Are you in favor of the first one or the second one? Let's make another poll. Who is for the first one? Nobody. No, you. No, two people, guys. And who is for the second one? No. It's not acceptable that in this case, in the first case, not raising the hand could have one sense. But in this case, you should choose one or the other. You cannot stay inside. Who is for the second one? Why are you for the second one? Yeah.
Because I think that it's better to understand and respect the view of everyone and not only for one view.
And why are you for the first one? One of you two. Yeah.
Because I see that an intelligent corporate, when it's making profit and is going well, does not have to squeeze salaries or to destroy what it created all over the time. So making profit brings always to good things for employees, suppliers, banks.
These are, you're mentioning the main motivations for the big fan of the shareholders' view. What do you say?
A question, if I'm like a private equity and I want to own the company for 5 years maybe, I prefer the shareholders' view.
Very good point. Send me a mail. Very good point. Very good point. Why? Because you can also be, theoretically, for one or the other, but of course you have to take into consideration that there are a lot of opportunistic views and a lot of different strategies. Even if I have to deal with a lot of private equity firms. I work with the private equity firms since 20 years ago. They have changed their attitude. They are not so short-term oriented, and sometimes they don't, you know that we know what is a private equity firm. Everyone, you know that. Private equity firm is a firm who is going to buy the shares of a company. I mean, very often not listed companies, because they see a potential upside in the valuation. So I buy now 100 because I see that the firm is not very well managed. It's not really, I mean, there is something that you can do and that could improve the performance of the firm. So you buy that 100 and you sell it 500. You sell it after 5 years or through an IPO. So you go public. Many firms, many private equity, they stay for 10 years now, and sometimes they don't want the exit. They want to stay in the shareholders and take the capital gains instead than the cash. And they are also requesting to their subscribers, because you know the private equity, they are funds which work with the private capital of some people. I have invested in some private equity fund, but I accepted a return in 10 years, 12 years. They are changing the attitude. So it's not always the same. So, or that.
I think it also depends from the stage of the corporate life. For example, at the start of the corporate life, maybe
it depends. No. It's not a, I mean, it's not a stupid, totally no. But it's a little bit more complicated.
But I guess whether you focus on one or the other, there's also some new literature suggesting that they are suggesting that they are intertwined, and you cannot have one without the other. For example, you can't have the best talent if you don't care about your employees. Without the best talent, you can't create.
I mean, that's the main idea of the shareholders' view creation, but the evidence in history, they have demonstrated that unfortunately this could happen. Because you write in theory. You know why? Because you are thinking about a long-term vision of shareholder value creation. If you are looking at that, then you're right. Because I look at the long term, and of course I say, in the long term, I cannot sustain if I if I beat my employees, if I bribe the banks, if I make mistakes in my products. That's right in the long term. But unfortunately, in the short term, you can't cheat everyone. And that's what happened. That's exactly what happened in cases like Enron, in case like the big banks in the 2006 and 2007, in Parmalat in Italy. In the long term, you cannot cheat. But remember that in the short term, you can cheat. You can be the CEO of a firm, you can take 200 million in 2 years, and then say bye-bye, and not the best is yet to come, the worst is yet to come. No, this is a good example, but if you want me to give you other examples, I can take 100.
No, I know. There are also examples of stakeholders who going wrong, like in the financial statement,
No. I mean, this is a sort of different kind of problem because, frankly speaking, we have had scandals both, either in the countries with the shareholder view or in the countries with stakeholders view. Because in Italy we had very big scandals, and we were, theoretically speaking, in a sort of stakeholders view culture. So the scandals can have different reasons. But of course there are many more scandals in the shareholders view than in the second one. But this is something different, and it will be the topic of another lesson. Other interventions?
But coming back to the private equity view, do you believe that this change in long-term investor is related to the stakeholder and not on the difficulties on exiting and also on the decreasing of the exit multiples? So the difficulty in the exit strategies or the illiquidity of the market in some markets?
That's a good point. Your colleague said that this changing of perspective and strategy in the private equity industry could be driven not only by some changing the perspective of stakeholders' view rather than shareholders' view, but also from some difficulties in the exit procedure. I would say that this could be 15-20% of the reasons, but the main reason is that everyone now is going to have a more medium long-term perspective. And also the private equity, because they face some reputational issues, and they also understood that if you change because the private equity firms basically works that you raise some capitals, and everything stands in the agreement between you, private equity, and the people who invested in you. I was looking at, because I invested in private equity funds in different times. 15 years ago, they offered me a lockup period of 4 or 5 years. And now they offer me a lockup period of 9, 10 years, offering a higher return. But if you do that, what's important is that my return is going to match their return. They need to be consistent between the return of the investment done and the returns expected by the investors. You understand me? Any other question? So, what do you think is my favorite view?
Second one.
Huh?
Second one.
You say the second one.
A mixture.
Huh?
A mixture. Taking both sides in consideration, but not clearly for one side.
Not clear from one side, yeah. Another opinion?
The first one.
Huh? What do you say?
Me?
No, my. What do you think is my favorite view?
Me?
No, my favorite view.
No, but I'm answering. Okay, I think it really depends on the context. Because maybe you as an investor, as somebody who works in the business, was for example private equity, you would go for shareholders.
No, I have a favorite view.
As a person, you want livable wages, you want, for example, have drinkable water without cancer risks and nice public transportation. So I think it really depends on what part of life we're talking about.
No, I will tell you my story because it's interesting because, I have a problem with my character. I enjoy to be a little bit against the mainstream vision because I always want to challenge. I say I want to challenge the mainstream vision. So for many years, I was a really strong fighter against the shareholder value creation theory. And I was basically alone. And someone was mean, thinking that I was crazy. Because I was saying exactly what a lot of people said many years after. And we in Lewis, we were creating a sort of network with Oxford University, with Harvard University, to favor a more stakeholder-oriented view. I'm talking about the 2014, 2013. I have to say that this fight was a success. Because in 2019 or 20, I don't remember, the Business Roundtable in the United States, is one body very important which gives the main orientation of the business community in the United States. They made a very important declaration in favor of the stakeholder view. They were saying that the shareholders' view had to be abandoned in favor of a more oriented stakeholders' view. And so to promote the ESG, to promote respect for the employees, for the labor, for the communities. You know, it was a success. You can say, okay, you should be happy about that because you won a big fight. You gained a big victory. Now I'm deeply unsatisfied about what is happening because people has gone mad in the opposite direction. Believe me, they've gone mad. You see a lot of, totally useless things, totally, unrealistic purposes. And so now I have to say, okay, let's go to a more moderate vision. You were saying a balance between the two. Maybe yes. We went from an extreme vision of the shareholders' value creation to an extreme vision of the stakeholder view. And this is, a big problem. Because, and now, of course, we are going back. And what is my fear now? You know what is my fear? Because there are many signs of a rebound from this extremistic view of the stakeholders' view. My fear is that we are going exactly back to the situation that we had before. Because, the news of 1 week ago, the investments in ESG funds in the United States has gone, to zero. The European Commission has suspended the mandatory requirement of the sustainability report for the non-listed firm. And believe me, I've studied this regulation. It is a total mess. You need at least 30 people to work on that. It's totally useless because it's totally independent of what you really have to do. So we are in a particular moment, so you have to really check what's happening. Of course, we will deal in this course, we will study the ESG problems because it's really important, and I still believe that it's important. Because I still believe that in the long term, you cannot give profit to the shareholders if you are polluting, if you are making damages to the environment. But there is a big balance, And of course, there is a problem of good communication. You know that I now have to deal with a more complicated issue that there is in the Italian industry. You know that? I'm one of the extraordinary commissioners of the Ilva of Taranto, which is the biggest steel plant in Europe. You need steel if you want to produce, I mean, many sort of things. China, India, they are producing steel in an enormous amount of tons every year. In Europe, we are destroying the steel industry because of ESG, issues. Is it right? Is it wrong? I mean, there is no answer, but we have to make some choices. If you want to be ESG compliant in Europe, we have to understand that we are the only continent which is ESG compliant. The only one. Because the United States, they are not ESG compliant. China is not. Russia is not. India is not. Latin America is not. Only Europe is. So you can understand that there are very difficult choices. And this morning, Ursula von der Leyen, she said that we have to think about it. So, because you are a very young generation and you passed through a lot of different contradictory messages, you have to think that this is a really hard choice. Because if Europe decides not to produce steel anymore, this doesn't mean that steel is not necessary anymore. This means that we have to buy steel from other parts of the world. So, and the CO2 in the world is not only the one that we are producing and emitting in Europe, but it's all over the world. It's very, very complicated. Very, very complicated. Because in Europe, following too much this kind of vision, we have practically destroyed the large part of the manufacturing process that we have in the whole Europe.
Germany is already closing all steel production, more or
Yes,
less.
of course, I know that.
I was working for ThyssenKrupp and they're like more or less bankrupt.
You know why? Because the rules are, if you want to produce steel now, you have to pay a tax for the emissions, which is practically something which makes you impossible to manage a steel company without losing an enormous amount of money.
There was a huge project by the German government to make a green, sustainable...
Are you German?
Yeah.
Where are you from?
Stuttgart.
So Stuttgart. No, the famous Stuttgart because it's home of some of the biggest
car and small engineering.
Yeah, exactly.
But they are all like fighting against ESG because they cannot handle it. Germany, like they changed like all.
You cannot handle that. That's, I mean, utopia, It's utopia. It's crazy. Believe me, it is crazy. We are destroying the European industry. And the most affected countries are the most industrialized, like Germany, like Italy. We are the most penalized countries in Europe. Because the manufacturing is first Germany and second Italy. And then third France, of course, also. Big damage. When I say people have gone mad about that, I was saying exactly this. And of course with a lot of, stupid thing. I'm in the board of a very important Italian company, which is one of the biggest world builder of infrastructure for offshore pumping of oil and gas, Saipem, the name is Saipem. So we have to deal with something which is not ESG compliant, because we are pumping oil and gas from the sea, from wherever, and we spend hours, days, months in preparing a sustainability report in which we say something which is totally distant from what we really make in the real world. Okay, so this is very important because you have to understand that this kind of conflict is not only a conflict in corporate governance, it is a conflict which is now one of the main issues in the industrial policy in the world, and especially in Europe. Is one of the most critical points that we are facing now. Is a real fight between one nice vision, because I would like really much to see a world totally clean. Who is so crazy not to like that? Of course, every one of us would like that. But we have to choose between being poor or being clean but tolerating something, you know? Okay? So what do we do next week? Next week, in the first lesson, we will go a little bit more in depth in this vision, and we go to investigate what is happening in the different countries of the world. We are going to see how is corporate governance in the US, how it is in Germany, how it is in France, how it is in Italy, in China, okay? And then on Wednesday, you will give me your view about the pros and cons of the different vision. I gave you some, of course, we have been discussing some pros and cons today, but there are a lot more, and I want you, of course, to be more detailed. Okay? Any other question? Okay. You can finish.
Stasera devo anche so scomode.